Where there's a temple, there's a need. Jesus never condemned the temple. Jesus knew the history of the temple. It had been built. Israel, in the Old Testament, they remember when they tabernacled. They didn't have a permanent dwelling, but the tabernacle, the papier-mâché temple, was the place where God lived. They finally moved into the temple. They finally got a permanent place to worship. No more gymnasiums, no more prefab buildings, no more hotels. They finally got into a house. They said, wow, we're in this house. And that was the place where God lived. Now, you and I know, and they knew, that God was creator of all things, so you could not house all of God in a building. But it was the image that this is the place. They believe this literally, that this is where God could be found. The first thing that Jesus does as an act of ministry when he comes into Jerusalem in his ministry, beyond teaching, is that he stops by the temple and he cleans out the temple because it's overrunning with people who have distorted the purpose of the temple. He says, you've turned my house. He personalized it, that I love this place because this is my house. And he cleaned it up. That was when he started. 3 years later, before he dies on the cross, do you remember what he did? He stopped by the temple and cleaned it up. He cleaned the house coming and cleaned the house going. Because where there's a temple, there's a need. You ever notice that every institution has needs? I mean, whether it's educational institutions, have you ever thought about that? Whether it be elementary or middle or high school or junior college or university, trade, they have a need. You ever notice that hospitals have needs? Yeah, they do. Different corporations, any institution that you can come up with. The only one that you can actually get full service free is the church. It's the one place that you can have all the benefits and free. You can't do that anywhere else but the church. And you know it is. You can get your loved ones buried, you can get married, bless the children. I mean, all of it. Where there's a temple, there's a need. Where there's a need, there is a provision. God has so created everything that it has a corresponding pair. Where there's hunger, there is food. Where there is thirst, there is water. Where there's loneliness, there is companion. Everywhere there's a legitimate need, there's a legitimate provision. This morning, the worship was designed to read 1 Kings chapter 17, where the prophet Elijah has to leave town and hold up at a brook called Kerith. By definition, it means the cutting place. It's a place where God will shape and define him. He has nothing to eat. And so the need is hunger, and the provision that God uses are birds to feed him. Raven Express. Interestingly, look how God provides with a raven. I don't have to tell you, you already know. A raven provided. Ravens don't provide, they're scavengers. They eat everything that they put their beaks on, and yet God provides in a place where life is barren. Where there's a temple, a church, there's a need. Where there's a need, there is a provision. When you read the Bible and you read these stories and hear these stories, by the way, are not for your entertaining amusement. They are told to shape the way that we believe. So when we hear stories of provision, it is not talking about Elijah so much as it is looking at Elijah as an illustration of how God will provide for anyone who will put their confident trust in him. And it takes faith to trust God. Let me say it again. It takes faith to trust God. And provisions are not just for you. When God provides for you, much of that provision will have to do with whether God knows that you are a river or a reservoir. Because if you're a reservoir, the Lord may say, I can't give you that because I don't need another place to stockpile blessings. I need a river that I can send to so I can send it through. Preach, Pastor West. This ain't no game for me. This ain't no game. I ain't talking about just no money now. I'm talking about because sometimes money ain't what you need. And that's what messed most of us up. We think the only blessing God got is a 10, 20, and a Benjamin. No, there comes a time where you need healing and deliverance and rescue and protection. And sometimes that blessing ain't for you. It's for your son, for your daughter, for your grandson, for your granddaughter. Don't ever get hung up thinking that the only blessing God got for you is nickels and dimes. But some of y'all in here, I can see it. I hear you telling me money ain't my problem today. I can't sleep at night. I need peace. I don't have no joy. I eat and can't keep it down. I need the Lord to step in a different kind of way. Lord have mercy. And you didn't think you could shout talking about giving. Because if giving is so limited to you about what you got in your pocket, do you think that God's hard up? I believe somebody here, one of the songs we sang had a line, the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. The Lord ain't hard up for nothing. It all belongs to him. Where there's a temple, a need, a provision. Provision there is. Go back to Elijah. 1 Kings 17, the brook dried up. Some of y'all upset, been out of shape because something done dried up in your life and you still presiding over something that done died. Relationship, friendship, job, career. All you talk about is what you used to do. Like all God got is your past. Sometimes stuff dry up so God can get you to the next destination on his GPS.